bong, 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 bong. Ladies and gentlemen, you're all very welcome to the Shout Out Show, and we're coming to you from McGraths shop today, and it's not too far from the cathedral, as you can hear the cathedral in the background. McGraths has been in Mullingar for many years, disappeared for a few years and then made a big comeback. We are lucky enough to speak to John McGrath here, and John is our special guest on the show today. But before we start, we want to do our quick shout out on our shout out show, because that's what it's all about. We have lots of people looking in. So let's start off with a quick shout out today. We have a big shout out to Jerry Tornsey, Torsney, and Jerry is from Sligo originally, but he's living in Panama. And we're actually not too far away from Central Park Dental Clinic, and his son is running that, so he's sending a big shout out to us all. And his son is Ori, O-R-R-Y. So big shout out to you in Panama, Jerry, and we'll actually just show you where your son's business is. It's just somewhere up around here, and you never know, he might just call down to us in a few minutes. Let me see, we have another load of people coming in here and saying hello, but hello to you all, guys. But we want to do our shout out first. As I said, it's a very quick one today. We have a food shout out today, comes from the Spice Indian, and that's just around the corner here from where we are. The competition today is to win dinner for two August weekend. So the best thing to do is just go to the Spice Indian Facebook page and enter that competition. It's a competition for two, and there's 3 prizes, so that's definitely well checking and looking out. As I said, we're on Bishopgate Street here in Mullingar, and a recommendation today for anyone who wants to sort of do a bit of moving today and head to Glasnevin Cemetery. A fantastic place. We were invited there last year by Robbie and all the crew, and we're sending a big shout out to them today. But if you want to find out about Irish history, and it's not just a graveyard, it goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. There's so much history in it. It's nearly like a history lesson, but with a different sort of flavour. So that's a place to check out and a place to go today if you want to something to do on, what day is today? Today is Monday, it's Tuesday. The days are moving by and the weather is absolutely fantastic here in Mullingar. Let me see now, another thing what we have is, I'm going to put this on our other camera. We're on Instagram here as well, and just get all our friends looking in on our Instagram page. Brilliant. So not forgetting tonight, a big shout out tonight, because Uncle Joe is going to be on television, and it goes back to 1995, and that's live from Mullingar, and that's on TG Car tonight at 9:30. So if anyone doesn't know that it's on, send it to your friends and say 9:30 TG Car, watch Uncle Joe. He's on TG Car, and it's called Dolan 1995 live in Mullingar. Birthday shout out to all our friends who are looking in now. Noel Kelly, the beekeeper who got all the bees out from where we live up there. Someone said it's his birthday. Now I sent him a message and he says, no, it's not my birthday. My birthday is on the 28th of August. So to the best beekeeper in the country, Noel Kelly, a happy birthday on the 28th, and we get it again. Bernard Gormley is in New York, and it's his birthday as well. And Paul Kelly from Belfast, it's your birthday, so a big happy birthday to you. Michaela Mulligan, and she's in Streamstown, and a big shout out to you. And David Graham, a big shout out to you. You're in Australia having a great birthday. So ladies and gentlemen, as a special guest, we're very lucky to have special guests all week, and our special guest is a man, John McGrath, and we're on his street. So I'm going to just turn my cameras around to John McGrath. John, it's great to have you on board the bus. Oh, turn around cameras. Yes, John, it's literally you have a shop here in the bus.
Well, I haven't, and I haven't a shop anywhere. The shop at the moment is my daughter's shop, Bernadette's shop.
Very good.
Yeah, across the road from us here. That's the third incarnation of McGraths. We moved uptown when we came here. The McGraths shop originally started back in the 20s when an aunt of mine, Evelyn, unfortunately was born with a minor physical handicap in that one of her hands had only 2 fingers on it.
Right.
And her father, who was a train driver, and indeed 3 of his sons went on to be train drivers, decided she needed a living.
Right.
So he created
A job for her.
a job for her by converting a room in their own house into a shop. And the older people in Mullingar will remember it. It was in number 4 Limbury Terrace.
I remember it well.
It had a counter that if you were a young fellow coming in, it was too high for you. And the woman that was serving you on the other side, it was too high for her as well. So she had a milk crate the far side to stand up and to see you.
I remember being in the shop, going in, and Adrian and myself would be heading home, heading for Lynn Road. You call in there, and you get in behind the shop, and all you could see was the top of her head and her eyes maybe, and that'd be it. And her sister was with her as well, isn't that right?
There was 3 of the sisters there. There was Evelyn, who had the shop, and her sister Fanny came when she retired. She was a master baker in the Kylemore Bakery in Dublin, all through the Troubles and all that. She used to tell great stories about Dublin during the Troubles.
Go away.
And she was a master baker in the Kylemore in Dublin.
Right.
And when she retired, she came down and she was there. And there was a 3rd sister, Bernadette, was there as well. So the 3 women were there. And as well as that, at that time, there wasn't too many hotels in town. Any fella came to town, everybody stayed in digs.
Right.
And it was primarily fellas who worked in the Met Office in Mullingar that were in it mostly.
And
but there was a few fellas off the council. Paddy Casey, Lord be good to him, I think was 20 odd years in it. And most people would know Paddy. Paddy was, when he died there last year, he was, up to that, he had been the treasurer of the Vincent de Paul here in Mullingar, and he was for years in the county council.
And he lived in digs.
He lived in digs there for 20 odd years between there and my mother's before he moved out to his own apartment on the Lynn Road.
Amazing. So the McGraths shop then moved on a little bit down the street, down to the bridge then.
Well, my aunt got into bad health and she ended up in a nursing home, and it was decided, my mother at the time was working in another shop. Like, my dad died 30 years ago. Died 43 years ago. My mother decided we'd move the shop, so I converted her room in her house into the shop. And when we converted the room, the sign we have here is the original sign, which was in 4 Limbury Terrace.
I remember
it
well.
Maybe back in the 20s. It was about 3 times longer than that, because underneath it said Clears Please, which, as you can see, is much more letters.
Right.
And it was yellow, so when it moved across the road, we cut down the sign, and that's the sign that was across the road at Belvedere Terrace.
Tell me, I mean, Mullingar was a total different town at that time. Everyone knew everyone, and the railroad had a huge impact on the area as well, including the barracks. These were the most important things in the town, were they?
Well, they were. At that time, you go back, my dad, as I said, my grandfather was a train driver.
Wow.
My father was a train driver, and 2 of his brothers were train drivers. Interesting enough, my mother, who came from Tipperary, all her family were railway people.
Go away.
My grandfather had been in the Royal Munster Fusiliers in the First World War, was a prisoner of war in Germany in the First World War, and got a bronze medal for military valor from the Italian government in the First World War.
Go on!
And when he came back from the war, he got into CIE, and he was there. My mother ended up in it, and a number of her brothers all ended up working for the railway. So when she ended up working in Cavan, and my dad was driving trains in and out of Cavan, when the railway went to Cavan up through Float outside Castle Pollard into Cavan, and went from there into the north of Ireland. And she used to tell great stories about the smuggling that went on the trains. At that time, smuggling tea down from the north and butter up to the north for during the war.
Amazing. And and then they got married then, and
they got married and they lived in Mullingar.
Wow.
And they were their first house. I lived the first 12 years of my life in the Green Road between Reeds and Mattresses. Number 46 Green Road was where I was for the first 12 years of my life. And my dad managed to buy the house in Belvedere Terrace down across the road from where he was born. He was actually born in number 4. Actually born in the house. And we had that sweet shop, and about 2 doors up, Fagan's had another sweet shop at number 6 Limbury Terrace.
God, were we fond of sweets or what?
Well, I don't know. And you came uptown then, there was in sweet shops. You had Maggie Murray's, roughly where the present shop is, across from Dolan's pub now.
Right.
Across the road, nearly directly across it. And you used to take a step down into Maggie's. And Maggie's was a great shop because Maggie ran a library for comics.
Right.
Because if you managed to buy a new comic and got to read it, you could go down to Maggie and you might get 3p for it. And the next fella coming in, if he wanted that comic, he could pay a penny and sit down on the bench in the shop and read it.
Right.
Or he could maybe spend 3p for it and bring it away, and he'd get 2p for it when he bring it back. So she ran that kind of a thing. As a matter of fact, she ran that for years, and that kind of a thing went on. Birdie Hines ended up with a shop like that later on.
Right.
She started in Bishopgate Street, where the union office is up there now.
Yeah.
At the moment, or the Labour Party have it now. Where that is, that was Birdie Hines' shop for a while, and she moved from there down to Harbour Street, and she still ran the comic library. You could go in and buy a comic or rent a comic, and it was the Victor and the Hotspur and the Beano and the Dandy and all those kind of things. So they were all the comics at the time.
You're very much involved in Mullingar. Say you're a born, bred and reared Mullingar man. You're involved in a few different things. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as I say, grew up in the Green Road till I was about 12. When we changed house that time, I ended up going to secondary school with the Chameleons in Killucan, where the nursing home is now. That was a school up to 1975.
Wow.
So I left it in 1970. And in 70, I had been very involved in the swimming here in Mullingar, so I was involved with the Lockwood Swimming Club at that stage. Then I ended up, when I was about 6 months into the job, and I ended up Secretary of the Union. And over the years, I spent 16 years as Secretary of the Union. I ended up 20 odd years as Chairman of the Mulling Council of Trade Unions. I was on the fundraising committee for the Mullingar swimming pool. When in the Council of Trade Unions, I got the money together and got the funding together to start the Congress Centre for the Unemployed. From being involved in the Trades Council, I got involved when the Mullingar Employment Action Group was started, and that's 30 years gone now, and I'm about 20 years the chairman of that.
That's the collecting of the glass, was that right?
At the moment we have our Enterprise Centre in Bishopgate Street, which has the uniform boutique, which is very relevant to a lot of people now with schools starting back in September. And we also have the Mullingar Enterprise Technology and Innovation Centre out beside the Joe Dolan Bridge. We're keeping it to your family as well today, out beside Joe's Bridge.
Right.
So that has a lot. So to date, we would claim to have had some sort of an input to about 3,000 jobs through Mullingar with the Employment Action Group. Like, it's a community group.
Yeah.
We work for the community. Our other company, as you know, I've mentioned the Uniform Boutique. We collect all the glass from all the pubs and the things in town, and we're doing that the best part of the 30 years.
That started off with, was it Ray?
Ray Billington was the manager of the action group at the time when we started off that. And no more than all these things that were geared up towards, particularly that one was geared up to try and get people who were long-term unemployed back on work, because work was scarce at the time. And as I say, it's gone since then, and we have 7 people working on it.
Brilliant. And as I said, it's a great facility for the town. So you're retired now, or you're not retired? How do you fill the days now?
I ended up in 1970. I joined P&T, engineering department as I was at the time.
Right.
On the lines, putting up telegraph poles, putting up cable, all that kind of stuff. Gradually through the years, I changed roles within the company. And for the last 10 years I was with the company, I was a regional facility manager for over half the country. Aircom had 1,400 buildings, and I was the facility manager for 665 of them, and I had 9 more sites in the north of Ireland. So for the last 10 years, that's what I did. I ran the buildings for Aircom for half the country.
Did you sleep much at that time?
Well, at that time I was still involved in the Employment Action Group, and I was still involved in the other stuff. And look, other fellas played football.
Yeah.
They were my hobbies.
Really, really. And because it seems when you get a job, you have a job, and then you get another job, and then lad gives you more jobs. I don't know how you manage to say, well, I won't do this and I won't do that. But a fair undertaking and a great... And
for the last 7 years then, roughly, I've been chairman of the Mullingar Arts Centre. As you know,
that's right.
With the guts of 3,000 kids a week before the lockdown. But thankfully, in the last couple of weeks, we're back dealing with the kids again with safe social distancing.
Tell me, we do a thing called the bongs. You were telling me that the bongs don't go 12 in a row at all here in Mullingar. It's 3.
3, and 4 trees. They take a breath. So you do forget to take the breath sometimes. The bells do.
Look, John, you're an absolute legend.
Yeah, they just, I suppose we started to talk about shops.
Yeah, getting back to the shop that's still running.
I might as well do something for
Yeah.
for our own house.
Yeah.
There are a couple of hampers. As I said, the shop, Bernadette shop across the road, does all kinds of hampers and different things for schools and stuff like that. This little thing they're sitting on is something which can be rented out. It's a home. It's a home. It ends up with about 10 well full jars of sweets.
Ah, right.
So you have your own little sweet shop at home for a confirmation or a communion or stuff like that.
Brilliant.
And
What's this here?
we're also the outfit in town that prints on icing. Anything you want, from a photograph to for the top of a cake to toppers for cakes for confirmation and stuff like that. We do them, and we work closely with friends. The cake shop in Mount Street and Lulu's Bakes in the Enterprise Centre here in Mullingar, and we supply all that kind of printed stuff. Indeed, the odd one comes up out of Buckley supermarket as well to get done. So that's what we do. It's a small little shop, but it keeps.
Bernie is inside running that now.
Yeah, well, it's Bernie's shop.
Yeah,
it's nothing to do with me. As I'd say, when after about 16 years, we closed, and about 16 years after closing, Bernie had worked at a number of other jobs, including being the acting CEO of the Chamber of Commerce here for a number of years.
That's right.
Before she went on to work in sales with Aircom, and she gave that up and came home and decided she wanted to go back at what the family had been doing. And she, about 7 years ago now, she started up the sweet shop uptown, as she said, and that's where the sign we took. This little old sign came down off the other shop that had been over the door. It had been sticking over it for 16 years and nobody going in to buy anything in it. And the day she opened in Bishopgate Street, we took that down and brought it up here.
Excellent. Well, look, do you like sweets yourself?
I do, but I'm not allowed them, Ray. I'm a diabetic.
Does Bernie like sweets?
Don't think so.
No.
No.
Well, look, once again, it's fantastic to have you on board the bus. As I said, the bus session continues, and as well as that, we're on the Shout Out Show. Our special guest here is John McGrath, Mullingar legend. And there's a lot of things, as I said, this man has gone through. And a lot of people would know him to see him going around town. But to see the amount of work that he has done for our town, once again, John, thank you very, very much for joining us. And we hope to see you very, very soon indeed at the next project you're going to take on. What age are you now?
Hey, 4 weeks' time will be 69.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear John McGrath and McGrath Shop. Happy birthday to you. Good luck, and thanks a million for looking in, folks.